Dr. Hannah, please come forward again. Good afternoon. I keep saying good morning.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Senator. Good morning. Thank you for hearing me again. I understand Senator Lasky's concern about being immune from anything, and I'm glad it was explained that this isn't, I can't just, if I'm at the mall and just leave my gun on the seat and walk away and someone takes it, then I'm immune. That would be pretty ridiculous, and I'm sure I would be prosecuted. I'd hope I'd be prosecuted. This is about leaving or storing a weapon on a premises that is under a person's control. And if you're home, if you're under control of your home, you're in the car, or even if you're driving someone else's car, you have to be in control of that weapon, or the premises. But I can't just leave it on a city bus or at the mall. That would be wrong. This does not cover those situations. This is not blanket immunity for anyone who misplaces their gun or has it taken by someone accidentally. It also doesn't seem, in my interpretation, and the attorney could correct me if I'm wrong, this doesn't cover liability for people who negligently leave the gun around children. I have 2 small children at home, and I have a carry permit. If I come home, if I leave it on my nightstand and my 4-year-old walks in, well, in the middle of the night, I'm sleeping, they grab it, get hurt, that's not under my control. I would not be covered by this. So I understand your concerns, and they would be my concerns too. I mean, I don't let my children point Nerf guns at each other because I'm trying to teach them gun safety at a young age. So the idea of this is to protect people who are victims of illegally obtained firearms. So someone has to break the law to get your gun, to give you immunity. So this is only a protection of the victim law. This is not protecting someone who's stupid. This is not protecting someone who is just negligent with their storage. This is protecting a victim of a crime from immunity. The big issue I have with this, I mean, even if it gets passed or not, is, besides the point, the fact is, if firearms are stolen and this bill is not passed, people are concerned that what's going to happen? Should I report it or not? Because what if it is used in a crime? I don't want to get in trouble. A stolen firearm may be less likely to be reported stolen if someone's worried that they could be sued or go to jail because it was stolen from their car or home. I had a firearm stolen from my car, or my wife's car, while I was in Florida. Fortunately, they caught the very careless person who took it from the car. But I was worried for a moment. I thought, well, I hope it wasn't used in a crime was the first thing that came up my mind, not because of me, but because of people in general. But if it was stolen, I would have reported it. It's the right thing to do. Some people may not have reported it because they would have been worried that it was stolen and they would get in trouble. So I think this is a very good idea that should protect us as gun owners and citizens in general. You don't want this to be applied to anything besides firearms, like the car example that was used. You don't want someone stealing your car, and it's a dangerous precedent. But this would set that precedent if you would allow people to be prosecuted or sued over something being stolen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning, Dr. Senator McDonald, you have a question.
Last question. Thank you, by the way, for being here today. Let me give you a little scenario first, and then I'll ask the question. As a father of 5 children, I still am an avid gun user. It was stored separately in the house so they wouldn't get it. But I was also an archery shooter also. Now, what if somebody broke in? Is the question. Stole, because they couldn't find weapons, okay, that I had myself, but they found the bow and arrow, and they used that in a crime. Would I be liable? Today, the way the law reads.
I'm not a lawyer, but if it was
A lawyer.
I can answer the question. The answer is only if that person committing the crime is reasonably foreseeable. So as a general proposition, criminal acts are not considered foreseeable, but if the person came to you and said, well, I'm really angry at somebody and I want to go shoot him with your bow and arrow, it might be, that the crime might be foreseeable then.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Great job.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Chair will call Jonathan Randall. yet Mr. Randall is not available. The chair will call Ralph D'Amico. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. D'Amico. Please come
Good
forward.
afternoon,
Identify yourself for the record.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ralph D'Amico, I represent Dunn, New Hampshire. All of the points being made for the passage of this, we agree with. One point that I think is sort of relevant in the method of storage of firearms. I sell, as part of my business, means of securing firearms. And I will tell you, there isn't one of those devices, safes, lock boxes, or whatever, that can't be defeated by a determined person who breaks in your home. So, the point being this: no matter whether you are deemed to negligently have stored or not negligently have stored the firearm, perpetrators can acquire them with not too extraordinary efforts. But we support passage of this. We don't need to make the attorneys any wealthier, the litigators, and my apologies to the attorneys in the room. But it's good sound legislation. Person illegally coming by a firearm, committing another illegal act. There's two illegals. It makes sense to hold the victim not that harm. I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions for Mr. D'Amico? Senator Vitale.
You have a business, Mr. D'Amico?
Yes.
There's a lot of guns in that store,
Yes.
and it's secure so nobody goes in and breaks it, well, tried to get the guns out of there. But if they did get a gun, you would become liable to where the law is today.
I think that the theme of negligence has to play into it, because of all the extraordinary methods we have to secure the premises and the actual counters. It would be hard pressed to say I was negligent if someone broke in and stole a gun.
Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon.
Thank you.
Mr. D'Amico. The chair will call Penny Dean.
Senator, before Attorney Dean speaks, I just want to amplify something I said before. The general rule is that a person is not liable for criminal acts of a third party unless there's some pre-existing special relationship, and foreseeability might overcome in some instances, but generally you have to have a special relationship with somebody before you're responsible for their criminal acts.
But this, I suppose it's a wait first after we discuss it.
Please go ahead and speak.
I agree in part with my...
Would you please identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm Penny Dean. I'm an attorney out of Concord, New Hampshire, speaking on behalf of myself and the person that cares about firearm owners. And I agree in part with my brother-in-law, but I kind of like to slice his onion a little finer, and I think it's important for the committee to know that. We're talking about civil acts, but they were talking about liable for criminal acts, but what this bill does is civil acts. And more importantly to me, and this is where maybe my brother and I might either disagree or I might slice the onion a little finer than he does. I don't believe that it always has to be a special relationship that causes a person to be civilly liable. I believe foreseeability will get you there, okay? And foreseeability, in my opinion, in some instances, is a question of fact for the jury. And so what we have to look at as a practical matter, because I'm an eminently practical person. If you say to me, you have to change that light bulb, I say, okay, the light bulb's 10 foot in the air. How do I get a ladder? How do I get there? How do I practically do this? And what I see in this bill is something that's absolutely desperately needed for about 3 reasons. Number one is the average person, when they get hit with one of these lawsuits, okay, they're like, what do I do? And I said, well, you file an answer. And they said, what's that? More importantly, how much does it cost? You know, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. And I hear people saying, well, you call your homeowner's insurance. And the answer is not always. Most people, even lawyers, sadly, have not read their homeowner's insurance policy. And if you read many, many, many people's homeowner's insurance policy, they have an exclusion for all things firearms. And so if firearms had anything to do with it in any way, shape, or form, and particularly a firearm being stolen, the insurance company says, you're on your own, buckwheat. And even if this law is passed, or this bill becomes law, and I sure as heck hope it does, okay, I still don't think we're going to get this big get out of jail free card that people think we're going to have. And here's why. Because foreseeability is a question of fact, I see judges saying, we're going to put this in the jury's hands to determine if we were even foreseeable, or to see if the person's conduct was criminal, or to see if there really was a trespass. Okay? Because what you're going to have is the victim saying, oh no, they had the right, they had the privilege, sometimes they're buddies that hurt each other or something, because they want to get at the deep pockets, they want to get where the money is. And generally, general rule of thumb, criminals that break in and steal things have no deep pockets. Okay, there's no money to be had there in suing that person. In general, there could be exceptions. And so the larger issue I see is I think you're still going to be going before juries. I think this is just going to, like the bill before, eliminate a few of them. But more importantly, judges don't have any discretion in stating the law. If you don't make something the law, the judge has a huge amount of discretion in jury instructions, a huge amount. And what a jury hears during the deliberations makes a huge, huge difference in how they're going to decide. And I think that this is desperately needed, and a lot of people say this is going to stop all the lawsuits. You're going to raise this as a defense, and you're going to not be able to go any further. It's going to stop them in their tracks. If I believe that'd be true, that'd be great, but some judges don't read the law as I do, and they have black robes, and what they say goes. So I really, really think you need this to defend from innocent people. And what happened last year with the grandfather's grandson breaking into his camp after being guarded there for years has really illustrated the what-ifs. And what I don't want to see happen is some innocent person having their financial and their emotional life destroyed because of something like this happening without a bill like this in place, and then you say, well, gee, we're gonna fix it now. What about that person? What about that? You know, I just think it's a bill that's coming, and we talk about Ralph's. I think his store is protected as much as can be. Whether or not it's foreseeable that someone breaks in there and steals it, you get the right judge on the right day, he may say it's a question to the jury. And that's really a risky place to be, and very expensive and a nail-biting place.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Dean? Senator Cataldo.
Just a matter of fairness.
It is a matter of fairness. It is a matter of fairness, because working class people in this state don't need to be paying people like me. I mean, quite frankly, there's plenty of work for me to do without handling cases like this. It's really quite sad.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Dean. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to House Bill 388? Sir, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Alex Benecki. I am from Atkinson, New Hampshire. I came up today to listen in on 135, and when I saw that 388 was up for discussion, I signed up. I wrote my name down. I don't know, maybe it was on the wrong list, but this actually hits home personally for me. Pretty much what Representative Baldassaro and everybody else who came up and spoke today pretty much touched all the points I wanted to make. But one thing, as far as negligent storage of a firearm, it's very questionable, because some people have jobs, but their job is to protect the people of the town or the state, whatever their job might be. And I'm speaking on law enforcement. The chief that Representative Baldassaro was speaking of is a personal friend and family of mine. I grew up with his daughters. I was in his oldest daughter's wedding. And he's the chief of police, right? When seconds count, minutes are a long time. It takes to unload a combination to a safe that could be stolen or broken into anyway. There are some people that don't believe in guns, and they don't have guns. But when they call 911, they're expecting a cop to show up at their house pretty quick, right? Chief of police, I expect that guy, as a description of his job, to be able to grab his gun and go. As a responsible gun owner, I carry hot. I store my gun hot. My daughter, very well educated on the dangers of guns. I'm very careful not to leave it around with small children that don't understand and I do understand all these concerns. But my friend, the chief, his life is, I feel really bad for him right now. And as far as already losing a member of his family, which that's not punishment enough, because of all the Second Amendment stuff going on in the media, the county attorney wants to come down on him. And I'll tell you, just to watch from the outside, it's pretty hard. He's a good guy. He's been a chief in Danville as long as I've lived in the area. And I think that if this, I support this bill, and I think if it passes, it's going to help his case, because he's going to be charged negligent storage of a firearm. And I think that his job requires them to store it in a certain way that could be considered negligent if this bill doesn't pass. So I guess with all the other points made, I'm not going to be redundant, and that would be it.
Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon. Are there any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Seeing that there are no other members of the public that wish to testify on House Bill 388, I'm going to close the public hearing.